Hello everyone and welcome to the 35th Stately Office Hours. This is where us, the team at Stately, talk about what we've been working on at Stately and on XState. We answer your questions, get your feedback, have a nice chat. So it's been a busy week for us, but a busy week doing a lot of the similar things as we have been previous weeks. Oh, before I forget, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Laura Kalberg and I do developer and designer advocacy for Stately. David.
I'm David Khorshid, and I'm the founder of Stately, the creator of XState, and the writer of Last Minute Talks. Like my talk will not be finished until the minute before I go on stage.
I think that is pretty normal. It's hard not to get things done with that deadline of actually having to be on the stage and give the talk.
Exactly.
And Matt, who are you?
Who am I? I'm Matt. I'm a developer advocate at Stately. Endless docs writer, it seems to be. Yeah, that's me.
And top tip writer. If you've been enjoying the XState tips on Twitter, you have this man to thank for it.
Top tip recorder. Yeah, I can't wait to find more time to do those. And video course recorder as well. So if you want to learn how to use XState with React, then please check us out on YouTube.
You can check that out in the playlists. The URLs for the playlists themselves are very long, complicated. But if you go to that URL, youtube.com/c/statelyai/playlists, there's just a few playlists there. So it's easy to find the XState and React tutorials there. And so what have we been working on this week? I guess as Matt hinted at, it's been more of the same, mostly for Matt and I, really doing a lot of writing of docs, a lot of reviewing of docs, trying to make sure they make sense. How about you, David, aside from talk writing?
Yeah, so lots of things. Talk writing, still going through candidates. There are so many amazing people who I really want to have on the team. So, just talking to all of them. On the coding side, we are still going through the, version 5. There are going to be some, obviously major changes to the way that actors are invoked and spawned. And so we're still talking about that. And actually, luckily, Mateusz is going to be in person in San Francisco next week. So, we could do some pair programming in person. It's going to be a lot of fun. Additionally, we still have the system receptionist RFC. And now, again, RFC stands for Request for Comments. So I do recommend people take a look at the RFC and let us know what you think. The system receptionist makes it a lot easier for actors to communicate with each other within the system without you having to do all of this drilling. It feels sort of like that prop drilling hell that people have experienced in React. So thankfully, this is more like React's context. Terrible analogy because XState also has context. But anyway, you're able to just arbitrarily talk to known actors, which is pretty nice. And furthermore, on the editor, we are working on improvements for one of the often talked about issues that people are running into, which is repeated auto layout. So the idea is that when you import a machine into, or not import a machine, but when you open the Visual Studio Code extension and you see the machine in the editor, it will first auto layout. And as a developer, you might say, you know what, I need to tweak the position of something. So you might manually tweak that position. But then when you add a node in the code or add a state in the code or add like a transition or something like that, all that layout goes away because auto layout is going to kick again and be like, okay, we're missing layout information. Let's redo it all. So we're working on fixing that. It's not an easy problem to solve, but it's a very fun problem because it involves saying we have the position of these, find the best positions for the rest of these that don't have any layout information. So we have internally a PR for that, and we're just going to be reviewing it and hopefully shipping it out to you soon.
Yeah, it's been a really, really cool period for us because we've been hiring for some more people. We've been gathering feedback about the editor as well. And you can provide feedback about the editor at github.com/stately.ai/editor feedback. He says, waiting for Laura. I see Laura's eyes shift over to the right-hand side.
Furiously scrolling through the banners to try and find where that one is. There we go.
There we go. So we got a GitHub repo but with all these issues in. And we're sort of able to prioritize issues based on your feedback. And a lot of people have been talking about the auto layout, and we knew when we shipped it, it was like, okay, let's ship this to beta. It's probably like 90% of the way there. And yeah, we're really keen to work on it more and improve all sorts of things about the editor.
Mm-hmm. And additionally, we're learning a lot about just expected behaviors. So it's funny, at first we thought like developers will want to manually position everything. And then that turned out to be not always true. So we're like, okay, developers want everything auto layouted. That turned out to not always be true either. And so these are really valuable things that we're learning. So yeah, we have to be smarter about that.
Yeah. Just highlighting a comment, David. You obviously didn't get the brown/mustard.
I didn't, and I have nothing. I have nothing brown around me, so I can't even. Oh, you know what? I do have a coaster, a brown coaster.
But you are wearing a Stately branded shirt, so I think that's another level.
True.
Yeah, and hey, if you want Stately t-shirts too, come see us next week.
We'll get back to more of that later.
Yeah.
I just wanted to share this lovely comment we have from Valentin. Hey, I love your work. I'm recommending XState to everyone I know. Even my grandma now understands what my app does. I love that.
Honestly, that's absolutely our goal. We want people to see the app logic as boxes and arrows. And it's been my experience too, like just talking to people who aren't even developers, like, can you understand the flow of this app? Like if you follow the arrows and, you know, you have a couple descriptions, maybe some pictures in the future, and they say, yes, it's very easy to understand. And so that's exactly the feeling that we want people to have.
Oh yeah, last weekend I was designing the back of some postcards that we got for giving out at conferences, and I was trying to write good, concise description of what the Stately tools do. And my dad was visiting, so I waved it in front of his face and was like, okay, read that. Does it make sense to you? And it did, so that's good. I mean, he works in IT, so he's adjacent, but it made sense, so that was good. Good test.
That's good. My dad always watches these streams, I think. So if you're here, Dad, hello. And
hi, Matt's dad.
Another David, actually. And so, yeah, I'm sure he's a little bit more experienced than other people, but yeah, he has no background in IT. I'm pretty sure he would understand this stuff too. It's cool.
Yeah, we should call it the dad test. Just show your state machine to your dad and see if you understand it. Or your
bring your parent to work day. We should do an office hours with all our parents. That would be cool.
I have to say, it is far preferable to do the showing your dad test, I think, than it's usually quite a sexist thing when people say about, oh, even my mum can understand it, like with the assumption that mums might not be people who work in tech, which of course there are many mothers working in tech, and many mothers who know far more about programming than I do, that's for sure.
Damn right.
So what we thought this week we could discuss a little bit was, first off, I'm getting my order right. I haven't got a banner for this one. So one of the questions we've been asking the last couple of weeks was asking whether people are using XState in production. And I tried asking the question a few different ways to find out whether what folks are doing with XState and whether they're using it in production and what they're using it for. But we haven't had many responses this time round. I don't know if it's the wording of my questions. I don't know if it's that people are very busy or too busy using XState to even talk about using XState. And but we're really looking for any organizations who are using XState and Stately tools to get in touch with us. And we might have something in return for them, David.
Yeah, that's right. So what we want to do is really gather information on how companies are using XState in production. We know from the, I guess, the casual Twitter thread that we posted last year that people are using it in a lot of different ways, both in the front end and back end, and even things like home automation. So we really want to hear from you. And if your company is using XState in production, please reach out to me. We will have exclusive swag for you. So. Yeah.
And the swag is very cool. So you want it, trust me.
Yeah.
Valentin asks, have you guys noticed all the new UI primitives, modals, drop-downs, etc. that have been running on state machines? Zag JS comes to mind. Now, if I'm not right, Zag JS, oh, there we go. Is it Zag? Is this by the person who made Chakra UI?
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
This is by Segan. It seems super cool, and this is awesome that you brought this up, actually, Valentin, because we kind of wanted to talk about this anyway, and sort of slipped my mind this week. This was released. When was this released, David? Like yesterday or something?
Like a couple days ago, I want to say, or yesterday.
Yeah, this just looks super cool. So what Segan has done, I think, David. Oh, in fact, David, why don't you introduce this, and I can kind of walk through the
yeah,
stuff,
sure.
I think you know more about the background of this.
Yeah. So this is actually an idea that a lot of us have had for a while. I actually talked to him about this many months ago. Like we were just spitballing ideas, and this actually came to me as a surprise. I didn't know that he was actively working on it, which is amazing. So this is the main idea is that state machines can describe the behavior of components. And so when you have that logic encapsulated in a state machine, all of a sudden you have the only remaining problem is the UI, which is, dependence on framework, but the logic is completely framework independent. And so that's why this is a, I guess you could call it a component library for, multiple frameworks. They have React, Vue, and Solid in there. The state machine inside resembles React FSM. And in fact, it's the same structure, but it is Zag specific. So they're not following SEXML carefully or anything. And they don't use XState as a dependency, but that's totally fine because the shape of it can actually be compatible with stately tools in the visualizer in the future. So that's just something that we have to talk to him about. Yeah, there's a lot of really cool components, and I could imagine this list of components expanding in the future with even more complex components. So I'm saying components a lot. Yeah, go check out zagjs.com if you want more information.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy too. This is like this particular API was something I was thinking about in terms of XState form, and I'm just so impressed with Segan that he's kind of like just gone and done it basically. Like the idea is you have your machine up here and you have your JSX down here, and you need some way of making them talk to each other, and having like a sort of proper connect function which takes in the state and the send and then just spits out all of these different props for various things. Just seems super clever, like real big brain stuff. And yeah, I'm really excited to see where this goes.
That's actually really clever. I know we've been talking about XState form for a while, and I like that. I like that API.
Yeah, it's very cool. I feel like if we dive into some of our internal discords, I like suggested an API like this like yonks ago, but Segan has just gone and done it and shipped it. It's amazing.
That's great.
Judso says, would love to see them switch over to using XState FSM. Supposedly they'd like to, but it's missing some things they'd need. Don't know about that.
So a couple things here. First of all, XState FSM is undergoing a rewrite I sort of started, and it actually was sparked by two things that Matt's wanted. Not only Matt's, but other people, but Matt was the one who pushed this, which was invocations, which, are really useful. I mean, treating a state machine as a workflow, you should be able to represent promises and things like that in there. And also transient states. So using always transitions, because that is part of finite state machines and not exclusive to state charts. So yeah, we might be covering those missing things. Additionally, XState FSM is tiny by nature. So it does make sense for them to package it up within their own like Zag namespace. So and that's completely fine. I actually always encourage people to try to make their own like little state machine library. It's not as difficult as you might think. State charts, yeah, state charts are completely like really, really bonkers. So yeah, and especially with like, I guess the dependency chain thing, it makes sense for, them to again have everything in their own namespace. We sort of try to do the same thing with XState. XState itself has 0 dependencies. So yeah, we understand the motivation there.
Yeah,
that absolutely makes sense.
This list I'm looking at is kind of the features that you have in XState, all in green on the right, and then the features that XState FSM doesn't have. Like whenever anyone sort of thinks about XState FSM, they're always like, oh, could I just have XState FSM, but just with this one extra thing, just like with delayed transitions or with final states or things like that. And we don't we've thought about this a bit and like thinking, what if you could take XState FSM and just like enable some things? But basically, as soon as you start adding like nested states and hierarchical states and all that sort of stuff, then you need all of the extra stuff that XState gives you along with that. You know, like that's kind of what you're talking about, David, right? In terms of XState, building an FSM is pretty simple. Building state charts with hierarchical logic and transitions, all that sort of stuff is crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nick says, I've used APIs like that for components at work, but never connected them up like this. So to an XState machine, I hope to get to try out Zag next week. So maybe this will help more people get into state machines as well, which would be great.
Yeah, I hope so too. And the API, even if you don't realize that there's a machine handling all the logic, which they try to like just, you know, hide away from you, like they expose state and send, and really that's all you need. So, yeah.
Very cool. Alex asks, hi, do you have plans to improve somehow the workflow with nested machines? Do you suggest to embed some state machines into others?
That's a good question. If I'm understanding it correctly, like basically, I think this is around the question of like machines getting too complex, where you have like a lot of nested states, right? Or do you have a different interpretation? Matt?
Probably, yeah, it could be that, or it could be more about nested actors, like the difference between like, because the workflow with, let's say, where'd the thing go? Ooh, I can't find the comment, sorry. Yeah, workflow with nested machines, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably I imagine that he means that the workflow with nested actors, and possibly even in the state the editor too. So like the ability to, let's say you're inside state the editor, if I just go there now, and then you want to like add a machine inside this machine, invoke it on a certain state or something, then having that might be an interesting feature.
Oh, but, okay.
Yeah, or it could be to do with the API, I think.
Alex says, when we need dynamic amounts of machines. So
got you. So I guess spawning then is maybe the question. And improving that workflow. That's definitely something that we're focusing on V5, right, David?
Yes, and also with the receptionist PR too. So one interesting part, or the receptionist RFC, one interesting part about that is that your receptionists are named, and by default they're an array because number one, that prevents naming collisions, because if everything is a to-do actor, then it's just in this array of to-do actors. And also this is what akka does, and so akka has years and years of experience in just using the receptionist pattern with the actor model and seeing how people are doing it in production. So we're heavily guided by their API design, not copying it one by one, but just very influenced by it. And also this makes it easy to say, hey, I want to spawn an actor, but I want you to manage it. I don't want to create an array in context and remember to stop it and also remove it from the array so that I don't cause a memory leak or anything like that. The receptionist pattern solves that, because you could just say, hey, this is a to-do actor, and then you could retrieve all the to-do actors, and then when you stop one, it will automatically be cleaned up. So it does solve a lot of problems.
Cool. Ivor says, I struggle with finite state machines. I understand the concept and I built quite a few machines, but they end up with a lot of complexity. How do we get better at modeling finite state machines? Any book recommendations? Now, before I let either of you answer that, I will say that there is a very good blog post by Matt that is Modeling 101, how to build a state chart from scratch, that contains a lot of tips that aren't just helpful for beginners, but in terms of the mindset of modeling from the very beginning. So I would really recommend that blog post, which is at stately.ai/blog, modeling, spelled the British way, -101-how-to-build-a-state chart-from-scratch.
There's a search on the blog too.
Right.
Yes, there is.
Yeah. Don't want to worry too much about that. Yeah. I think one thing to think about with this comment is that often state charts reveal complexity instead of hiding it, so you may end up with something that sort of looks and feels quite complex. And that's probably because your requirements are complex, like there's not much in the way of abstraction in state charts. It's basically just, here's all the complexity laid out so you can understand it, visualize it, simulate it, and it's all safe too. Does that sound fair, David?
Yeah. So I also want to add, and actually this is sort of a silly analogy that I thought of. I'm very much a chess beginner. I know that Matt, is really good at chess. I haven't played him yet, but So something that I started with, like when playing chess, was like, oh, I have to learn all of these openings and just study all of this stuff. And granted, I barely play any games in real life. And so what I learned, just from advice online, is that that's actually the wrong way to go about doing things. It's sort of like you're doing things in the opposite order. Like what I was told to do is just play games. Like just, go at first, stop thinking about openings or techniques or whatever, and just do that. So I think that the same advice applies with modeling. So basically, take your application or whatever you're trying to model with the state chart and like list out all the events. And so everything else would start off, especially if you're learning state charts and state machines, it would start off with like, you having a single state and you updating parts of like the context the same way that you would if you weren't using a state chart. So all you're doing is modeling the events. So the more you do that, the more you're going to realize, oh, hey, this is actually a state. Like it's a lot cleaner. I could get rid of all my if statements if I just make this a state. And then eventually you'll say like, oh, this could be a state too, and this could transition to that state. And so the modeling becomes clear instead of trying to do it up front. And then as you write more and more state machines and state charts, you start to recognize these patterns a lot earlier.
Definitely. There's also the chess analogy is a great one too, because sometimes you can have different themes or patterns that emerge over different games. Like there's a pattern where you put your bishop in like a little corner and it's like looking out over the whole board, which is called like a fianchetto. Beautiful chess name. And we have similar patterns in state charts too, where let's say you have a node that you're transitioning to that immediately goes off to some other nodes. That's a choice node. And so we can, as part of the new docs that we're writing, we're planning on. After a very, very good recommendation by someone in the Discord, we're going to put together a patterns list. So a common things that you see across state charts that you can use. Oh yeah, that sort of feels like a choice node. Okay, I'll just put a choice node there. And that's things that we sort of learn through, because you're right, David. It's like chicken and the egg. You can play a ton of games of chess, but eventually you'll get to a level where you can't improve unless you pick up some of these new patterns. So we're hoping to smooth that on-ramp a bit more. But yeah, mostly getting better is just going to be messing about, playing with it. And hopefully our tools will enable you to do that faster than just fiddling with code.
Yeah. Additionally, we do have examples in the repo, and we do have to create more examples. And so we're going to be doing that both in the XState repo and the documentation, and also in blog posts too. And so one of the best ways for me to learn is by example. So I feel like that's going to help a lot of people too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Ivor must be doing pretty well because it said, my most recent job is thanks to XState because they were impressed with the separation of logic and UI. So that is what we like to hear.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
And we've got lots of comments today, really loving all your comments and your questions. Alex says, thanks for the answer. I worry, is it okay to spawn machines with a sync option? I suppose it's not so performant, but often we need to get access to nested machine data.
Yeah, so historically, the sync option was because we did need to get access to, that stored data, or that nested machine data, but yeah, there wasn't an easy way to do it just because the actor model strictly says you need to send events in order. You can't reach into a machine and read its state. So instead, what we're going to be recommending is just using get snapshots, because get snapshot, it's a little bit implicit, but it's basically remembering, okay, this machine is sending me events, like saying, hey, my state has updated, and you're caching them somewhere. And this is happening internally. And so get snapshot is just going to say, hey, here's the last value that was emitted. And so this eliminates the need for syncing, which can be very noisy.
It can be, but if there's a reason why it's there, you know what I mean? If you need it and it's not wrecking your system, then it's probably fine, so it just allows you to always know that the snapshot that you're reaching into is going to be up to date, and allows you, lets you know when the channel changed, and which can be really, really important. And some flows are not very, end up with a lot of boilerplate if you don't use sync, for instance.
Just jumping back to this question from Jotso. I'm saying Jotso, it might be Jotso. correct me, please let me know. But anyway, are there any plans in V5 to allow referring to actions by name anywhere you could return an action, like returning name strings from pure instead of the actions themselves?
You could do that currently, actually.
You can do that, but there's a type error where it seems like you can't. So it's actually a TypeScript error. You can do this right now. I think I reported this a while ago, actually, but yeah, so you should be able to do this now.
So we will chase that up later. Ayush says a suggestion, an XState hackathon that lasts at least a month with infinite submissions per user with a category for content creation as well, so that non-developers can participate as well. I mean, a great way to generate a lot of examples, that's for sure.
That would be great, but that went from 0 to 100 real quick. Like a month-long hackathon with infinite submissions. That's amazing. With that said, we do welcome submissions to either our blog if you want to share like an article that you wrote, also we love to see your really cool state machines that you make. We do have a showcase channel in the Discord, and yeah, lots of really cool things in there.
Unfortunately, because we're a finite machine company, we can't accept infinite submissions.
Exactly. That's our disclaimer.
I haven't actually mentioned our Discord yet this week. If you want to join our Discord, it's at discord.gg/xstate, and you'll find lots of channels for chatting about various topics, as well as specific help channels depending on what platform you're using or what you want help with. So you are very welcome, and we'd love to see you there. Now, the other thing that we wanted to discuss this week, she says, scrolling through her many, many banners, what makes good docs? Given that it's something that Matt and I have been just heads down in for what seems like a very long time, I thought it would be interesting for us to discuss what we like from docs, because I think people tend to like slightly different things as well. What about you, David? What's your ideal type of docs? What makes a good docs?
So honestly, when I'm researching the docs for, something like, it's nice that, you have everything there, especially as you're working on a project. But when I'm very new to some sort of project or tool, I honestly just want to copy paste some stuff and get it running as quickly as possible. I call this time to hello world. And some projects have a really good time to hello world where it's like, oh, hey, I just NPX this and it works. And so you could immediately see the benefits from there. And so we strive to do that with, the XState docs as well. But I really like, quick hello world and quick or like easy examples. I guess that's what I value.
How about you, Matt? What are your preferred format for docs?
Oh, all sorts of everything, basically. Like I love a good landing page. Like all of this stuff sort of gives you a really strong visual sense of what's going on. This is the Tailwind documentation, and
a landing page that slags off semantic HTML.
Exactly, love it.
No.
You're a dinosaur, Laura. Join the utility first world. Absolutely. Now this, so all of this stuff just looks really nice, feels really nice, and basically, like the quality of the search is something I really love the Tailwind docs for too. So like, just search for a color palette and that kind of thing, and it just immediately pops up. And just the quality of the organization on this left-hand side is really, really nice. And the Tailwind docs basically act as a reference, because there's not really much to Tailwind other than just a ton of utility classes. And so they can get away with not teaching much in terms of like concept early on. Whereas obviously we have a lot of concepts that we sort of need to front load, like states, transitions, events, and all that sort of stuff. So Remix, for instance, is one that's a bit more like us. It's like teaches kind of how to think about Remix and like the conventions of the API first and all that sort of thing. These docs, I think, are interesting because they're sort of evolving. Like Remix is relatively new. And there's no reference here like there is, for instance, in Tailwind. It's just guides, right? It's just like guides that all read pretty well, that all have a sort of a sense of beginning, middle, and end. And then you've got these longer form tutorials as well. So this Jokes app, for instance, like I think this takes, like look how much content there is here. This is crazy. I think this takes around sort of 45 minutes to complete or something. It's like an entire self-guided thing. This is Kent C. Dodds, I think, wrote this, and you can actually work through the tutorial with him on YouTube as well, which is absolutely incredible. So there's just so much here. But there's so much here, and it's not in a reference, and you've still got as a backup this wonderful search from Algolia to just sort of how to send a 404, and then you get sent there. So I really like this feeling of, okay, everything's here in a sort of very readable format, so you can search it really easily, and you've got these big overarching beginning, middle, and end tutorials to sort of guide you through.
Yeah, I would say that the thing that I value the most is not assuming prior knowledge, because I am not a particularly confident programmer. I would say for all my experience over many years, I still always feel like it's a struggle, and I want to be reassured. And so that is what I'm looking for in docs, is lots of links to information on where to find what I need to know in order to do what you're instructing me about, and starting at the very beginning, like letting me know, hey, this is how you set up your developer environment for doing this work, and all of those things I think can be really valuable in making something more accessible to folks who are newer to development as well, and helping teach good best practices from the beginning. I think that's a really valuable form of documentation too.
Definitely agree. Yep. And you're definitely doing yourself a disservice by saying, I mean, you may not feel like you're a confident programmer, but my God, you're a good one.
Oh, that's very, very kind of you. Is there any other features? Anyone in the comments, if you have any suggestions of what you like from docs, I mean, you can let us know in the comments. You can just tell us on our Discord or on Twitter. Like, we would love to hear from you and what you like from docs, because we're really trying to do a great job with the docs that we're writing. So far, I think we're doing really good. I think Matt has done some amazing work, and I think we're going to be getting them really, really thorough. And I also was thinking earlier this week that we're going to start testing common questions that we keep getting in support against the docs, so that we're making sure that we're able to point you exactly to where you need to go, or even that you don't even ask us in the first place, because it's so easy to find it in the docs. That is the dream. That is what we're aiming for.
Yeah,
absolutely. I wanted to add one more. Oh, sorry. You go, David.
Oh, I was going to say we also have a docs wish list, which I've mentioned before, but this is actually since 2019, and it contains like so much good information from the community about what they find best or what they really want in documentation.
Yeah, it's particularly helpful if you say something that you want from us and what's helpful for your learning style, because I can find some of those the wish list suggestions tend to contradict each other, and that can make it quite difficult.
Yeah,
like one person loves to learn from videos, another person loves to learn from text. I mean, we could do both, but we can't satisfy you both in one location. Oh, this is a nice response from Johannes. Thank you, Johannes. What I like in docs is Matt's videos everywhere. Well, I'm sure we'll be able to do a little bit of that for you.
Don't tempt me. Don't tempt me. Everything will just be one long video. It would just be, the docs would just be one live stream. You just live me like talking. Please let me. I'd love to.
A 24-hour docs marathon.
Exactly. Yeah. For
Matt.
The rest of my life. Yeah.
Just following you around with the camera while you talk through the docs. Here's all my chess examples.
God.
Alex says interactive examples in docs. Well, we certainly have opportunities for that. And particularly we'll be able to do things like, hopefully in the future, embed the visual editor in, as well as we've already can embed the visualizer into our docs. So you can actually see things in action, which I think is also really helpful.
Totally, yeah. Especially with complex examples, and like looking at the XState syntax can be quite intimidating for new people, but when you just understand that it's just a representation of a chart, then it's simple.
Yeah, absolutely. So next week is going to be an exciting one for the Stately team, because a lot of the team, I was about to say most, I think it's about half the team are off to Reactathon. So David, you looking forward to that?
I am, yeah. So it's going to be me, Jenny, Gavin, and Mateusz. And so Mateusz is making a rare appearance. Like, a lot of people are excited to see Andorist in person. So yeah, we'll have a whole little booth set up, just to meet and greet with him. He'll sign your GitHub repos or whatever you want. Yeah,
he very rarely ventures out of your Node modules, so it's good to be actually in real life.
That's exactly right. We're also going to be having a lot of exclusive swag. So please, again, visit our booth. It's going to be outside and beautiful. The temperature is going to be a nice, brisk 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, which is something in Celsius. My brain's not working this morning, but it's not too hot, not too cold, just perfect. I will also be giving a talk in which, of course, I'll talk about state machines, but that's not going to be the main purpose of my talk. Eric Rasmussen is also going to be talking about state machines more directly in his talk, I believe. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a really fun conference. Please come up and say hi, and we'll give you stickers and other things.
So jealous.
Yeah, the stickers look really cool as well. I've seen some of them. Valentin asks, any plans to integrate Matt's type gen to be a first-class citizen in XState? It kind of is, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you missed the memo, Valentin, but it is. It's so the XState cogen was my initial project to try and improve TypeScript's types. That was my first ever Twitter DM from Anderist was about that. And we got talking, and eventually I got hired at Stately, and now it's part of XState. So you can have a look on the blog and have a look in the documentation. There is an official XState CLI that runs it. It's been an amazing effort, especially from Anderist, to integrate it into the core.
Mm-hmm. And what I love about type gen is that it really just breaks down this wall of here's what TypeScript could do. And now type gen could go a lot further than that. So we could be a lot smarter about the types that we have in your code and just make it a lot more type safe without you having to do a lot of extra effort.
Yeah, especially in the VS Code extension, it just feels like magic. Like you don't even need to save your file. It just does it automatically. It's brilliant.
Great. Now, did anyone else have anything that they wanted to talk about this week? I mean, we've really covered a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my printer has something to say, apparently.
Well, we should ask the printer.
So you should ask the question, join the stream late. Any update on porting XState to more languages? This is something that we actually talked about, especially with Gavin, who's on our team, and he will also be at Reactathon. This, because he's more of a .NET developer. And so I think a good game plan is that we're going to be taking XState FSM, which we talked about in the beginning, and just starting with porting that over, because that's easy enough. And it's actually a pretty fun programming exercise to port that over to all of these different languages. The full XState, state chart spec, that's a little bit tougher, but I think that for a first go, porting XState FSM to these languages would be a noble goal.
Well, and if anyone wants to work on porting XState FSM to the language of their choice, then they are more than welcome to do so. It's all open source project.
Yes.
Yeah, and all the work we do on it will be open source as well.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, then I think it's time for us to wrap up for this week. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you for your comments and for your questions. We really appreciate it. During the week, you can always join us on our Discord at discord.gg/xstate. You can find us on Twitter at StatelyAI. On LinkedIn, we are Stately. And on YouTube, we are StatelyAI. And we will be looking out for you there. Nice to see you. See you later.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.